Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, we're looking at Luke chapter 12. And here in this passage, Jesus begins by speaking to his disciples. Now, previously in chapter 11, as he closed that chapter, he was dealing with the Pharisees and their hypocrisy and calls them out along with the lawyers. Now, as we read verse 1, it says, "In the meantime, when an innumerable multitude of people had gathered together so that they trampled one another, he began to say to his disciples, first of all, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy." So there's a big crowd of people has gathered around this house of this Pharisee where Jesus has been with his disciples. They come outside and Jesus turns to his closest disciples and says to them, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And so just like the Pharisees had problem with hypocrisy, he says we need to be aware of this leaven. Now remember, leaven is something that you put in some meal, you put in some bread that you're going to cause to rise, and leaven causes it to puff up. And that's what hypocrisy does. It causes us to puff up. We're pretending to be something we're not. We get puffed up with knowledge, we get puffed up with pride, and next thing you know, it's spreading. Now also recognize that hypocrites are usually bitter people. They're angry about something, they're trying to cover up something, or they have guilt in their life that they're trying to cover up with religious activity, and they become a pretender. Remember the church of Laodicea in the book of Revelations chapter 3, and I believe it was verses 15 and 16. Jesus said to that church, he said, you're neither hot nor cold, but because you're lukewarm, he said, I will vomit you out of my mouth. I would that you are hot or cold, but because you're neither, I will vomit you out of my house. Now that's a hypocrite. He's around the lost crowd, he acts like a lost person. He's around the saved crowd, he acts like a saved person. He pretends to be something, both cases, that he is not. And people that are angry, people that are bitter, people that are upset, they actually defile other people. Leaven spreads, it spreads through the whole lump. The Apostle Paul compared it to sin, and it's sin because it defiles others around us. Our bitterness does. In Hebrews chapter 12, he says that we're to pursue peace with all men in verse 14, and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. And notice, looking carefully, lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, and any root of bitterness springing up causes trouble, and by this means many become defiled. Many become defiled. And so it spreads. That's a trouble with hypocrisy. It spreads to other people and it causes us to be puffed up. And then he says in verse 2, there's nothing covered that will not be revealed, nor hidden that will not be known. In other words, be sure your sins will find you out. Your hypocrisy will be found out one day. The hypocrisy of the politicians will be found out one day. God says there's nothing you can cover up from me. I already see it. But the truth is, it won't be long till the whole world sees your hypocrisy. And if there's one thing the world can't stand, it's a hypocrite. Matter of fact, that's why it's bad to be a hypocrite. One of the worst things or most biggest obstacles for a lost person to come to church or to become a Christian is he meets Christians who are hypocrites. They claim to be something that they know they aren't, and they're acting out, they're pretending, and the lost person says, I'm not going to church, there's too many hypocrites there. And that's the biggest excuse. Whether it's a good one or not, it is the excuse they use. There's too many hypocrites in the church. Of course, I always reply, well, if a hypocrite's between you and God, it means one thing: he's closer to God than you are, and hypocrites will have greater condemnation. So I wouldn't want to be with them anyway, but I want to make sure I'm with God and let the hypocrites be taken care of by God himself. He will deal with them, and my friend, he definitely will, because he will uncover that which we think we're covering up. We try to cover up our sin with our hypocrisy, but it doesn't work. Well, God bless you, and I trust that you'll have a wonderful, wonderful day as you pursue holiness and peace with all men, and don't be a hypocrite. God bless you. Have a great day.